Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. President Biden has declared New Jersey and New York major disasters after Hurricane Ida swept through, taking dozens of lives, bringing the death toll across the nation close to 70. A former Marine is charged with first-degree murder and the killing of 4 people in Florida. The victims include a mother and her 3-month-old baby. The suspect admits he was high on meth during the home invasion. City officials in Portland, Oregon want to ban doing business with Texas and bar state employees from traveling to the state. The move is in protest to the Lone Star State's recently enacted abortion law. Police brutality in France during the weekend protest against vaccine passports. Police were seen beating and tackling 2 women who marched into a small shop. And dancers took to the stage this weekend to shine a light on classical Chinese dance. Performers from 2 divisions showcased jumps, tumbles, and other traditional techniques to a cheering crowd, all part of NTD's 9th International Dance Competition. At least 44 people have died and 4 are still missing in New York and New Jersey after the remnants of Hurricane Ida swept through the Northeast. The storm's death toll has risen to at least 68. President Biden today declared parts of the 2 states major disaster areas, and he plans to visit them tomorrow.
3 inches of rain every hour hit New York and New Jersey last week, flooding roads, subways, and homes. New York's governor estimates the damage will cost the state more than $50 million. And this man fell 30 feet down a storm drain, rescued by New York City firefighters and police.
I'm very happy to report that the victim that was removed suffered none life-threatening injuries, and now is at New York Presbyterian Hospital.
With Biden signing off on New York's emergency declaration, the federal government will pay for evacuation and shelter support. And New York residents and business owners in these counties can apply for federal funds to help recover from the disaster. And in New Jersey, residents now cleaning up from Ida, saying they've never seen such a destructive storm before.
Like I said, I've been here 40 years and I've never seen anything. There's been flooding, but maybe like 2 inches, 3 inches in the basement, maybe a foot all the way in the front of the house, but never, not even Sandy. This had no comparison to Sandy.
New Jersey residents in these counties can also apply for federal assistance under the president's disaster declaration. The funding will include grants for temporary housing, home repairs, loans to cover uninsured property losses, and help for business owners. To apply for the federal assistance, New York and New Jersey residents should visit disasterassistance.gov. More counties could be added. President Biden will assess the damage and rescue efforts on Tuesday.
And after Biden visits the disaster zones in New York tomorrow, he'll be returning again this weekend to honor and memorialize the lives lost in the 9/11 attacks 20 years ago. Biden will visit all 3 sites of the attacks in New York, the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and the Flight 93 National Memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio surveyed the damage caused by Ida in Queens today. 13 New Yorkers were killed during the flood, and many are struggling to rebuild. NTD spoke with some of them.
We have to get them that money.
FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Senator Chuck Schumer accompanied the mayor. They announced that homeowners will get up to $34,000 in federal grants for property damage.
The city is going to send teams out to all affected areas, door to door, to make sure people sign up, to cut through the red tape.
Queens resident David Benavides tells NTD his house was devastated when Ida hit last Wednesday.
It actually seemed like a tsunami came, and all the debris from a tsunami that was thrown all around. It was just horrifying.
Queens remains the city's hardest hit borough. 11 people died when 6 basements flooded. A local resident tells NTD she only survived because her son pulled her out from the small window in the basement.
You see where the water was? I told you it was about a foot over my head, a foot and a half.
Though lucky enough to survive, these residents are now dealing with the huge damage.
Books, clothes, shoes, everything is gone.
President Biden will be visiting Queens on Tuesday. Benavidez says the flooding cost him over $100,000 in property damage. And he hopes Biden's not just there for a photo op.
I hope that he sees it and releases funds for us that we don't have to pay back.
And there are more things to take care of than just the money.
People are getting sick. Our neighbor, our friend, is being taken to the hospital because we think she has cholera. And our other two neighbors are having the same symptoms.
The New York City Council will hold an oversight hearing next Tuesday on the city's response to the catastrophic flooding.
City officials in Portland, Oregon are protesting Texas's new law limiting abortions. They're planning to ban travel to and products from the Lone Star State until the new law is rescinded. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
Portland is known for its protests. Now, city officials there are getting involved in a protest of their own. Portland City Council will vote on Wednesday whether to ban doing business with Texas. This following the Lone Star State's new restrictions on abortions. Under the ban, Portland won't be allowed to buy goods or services from Texas, and city workers won't be allowed to travel there for business. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler said in a press release Friday that the ban will be in effect until Texas withdraws its abortion law or until it's overturned in court. Wheeler added that the city council stands unified in its belief that all people have the right to choose if and when they carry a pregnancy. In addition to Wheeler, all 4 council commissioners are Democrats. The Texas law went into effect on September 1st. It requires doctors to try to detect a fetal heartbeat before an abortion. If they detect a heartbeat, they cannot end the pregnancy. Abortion providers say the law blocks 85 to 90% of all abortions in the state. A group of Texas abortion clinics and advocates sued over the law, trying to block it. But last Tuesday, the U.S. Supreme Court allowed the law to stand. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
The man accused of killing a family of 4 in Florida has now officially been charged with murder. The former Marine was held without bond on his first court appearance today. NTD's Kevin Hogan brings us more updates.
We discovered a man, a woman.
Brian James Riley told authorities he was high on meth during a home invasion that left 4 people dead and 1 severely injured. He now faces many charges. Those include 4 counts of first-degree murder, along with 7 counts of attempted murder of a police officer and second-degree arson. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd says Riley was wearing full body armor when he started killing a family in Lakeland, Florida, just east of Tampa. The 33-year-old suspect surrendered Sunday morning after a firefight with police.
When someone chooses to give up, we take them into custody peacefully. If he'd given us the opportunity, we'd have shot him up a lot. But he didn't, because he was a coward. You see, it's easy to shoot innocent children and babies and people in the middle of the night when you got the gun and they don't.
After Riley surrendered, police rushed inside and rescued an 11-year-old girl who was shot 7 times but was still conscious. On Monday, the sheriff said she was in critical yet stable condition. The victims who died include Justice Gleason, a mother and a baby she was holding, and the baby's grandmother, who was in a separate home nearby. Investigators say the suspect had been honorably discharged from the Marines and had no known connection to the victims. Yet Judd says Riley stopped by the same home Saturday night, with Gleason telling him to leave and calling the police. The sheriff also said the suspect, who had served in Iraq and Afghanistan, was suffering from mental health issues. A judge said Riley has asked for his own lawyer, and he will be appointed one until he gets his own. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
Dozens of healthcare workers in Kentucky are taking their employer to court. This is yet another lawsuit among several being filed against governments and companies mandating that workers be vaccinated against COVID-19. NTD's Miguel Moreno has that story.
St. Elizabeth Healthcare in Kentucky has ordered its workers to vaccinate against COVID-19 by October 1st. But 40 employees have reportedly filed a federal lawsuit against the hospital. The Louisville Courier-Journal cites the suit, which argues employees have the right to refuse the vaccine without being coerced to participate in a medical experiment. Dieters Law, the firm representing the workers, told the Journal these hospitals are evil corporate gangsters, as are their partners in crime, the government and pharma and media. St. Elizabeth Healthcare hasn't gotten back to us. On the day they announced their mandate, the CEO said,
"First priority at St. Elizabeth, and I know all the health systems, is the safety of our patients, our visitors, and our employees, as well as our community. And vaccines are the best way for us to ensure that at this time."
In Indiana, what's being cited as the state's largest healthcare provider suspended nearly 300 employees last week for being unvaccinated, a day after these workers were suspended. Hoosiers held a medical freedom rally in Evansville. Alicia Brando says she's been a nurse for 21 years in Evansville.
I can see people wanting, if they want to take the vaccination, that's fine, but I don't. I can't take it. One, I think that it's not be safe, but the biggest thing is against my moral and religious beliefs. And to sit there and say that I have to take it to keep my job is not right. That's just not right.
Keisha Byers says she's a nurse. Her employer approved her vaccine exemption request.
Though I still feel like I'm walking on eggshells daily. We're discriminated against. We're made to wear extra coverings, despite the fact that I have already had COVID and recovered. So I have natural immunity. I'm forced to wear a face shield that, identifies me clearly as not having been vaccinated. And I don't think my job should be at risk, my career that I've already invested 14 years in.
Reports say those suspended employees from Indiana University Health have 2 weeks to either get vaccinated, apply for an exemption, or lose their jobs. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
And 2 major pandemic unemployment programs end today. One research firm calls it the largest cutoff of unemployment benefits in history, as over 7 million workers lose federal money. NTD's Colin Frederickson has the details.
The largest halt to unemployment benefits in history. Around 7.5 million Americans have lost either their pandemic extended unemployment compensation or their pandemic unemployment assistance.
My inner voice is me yelling, screaming, trying to be like, what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do.
Sleeplessness, it's a lot.
Yeah, there are any number of jobs that I could go out and do, but not all of them can support me.
Pandemic extended unemployment compensation gives additional weeks to people who are still jobless after their state benefits are used up. And pandemic unemployment assistance provides up to 79 weeks of unemployment benefits to individuals not eligible for regular benefits.
Considered temporary work. They're not all promises, but they do give you a chance to earn some money while you're waiting for the right job and the right opportunity.
Mark Dyson is the founder of the Voice of Job Seekers podcast. He says there are all sorts of temporary job options right now.
There's anywhere from clerical work to even management jobs where you'll be a temporary solution for the work that they have. Every position has a temporary job.
Some other tips? Apply for rental assistance. States like Oregon, Nevada, and New York allow renters to stay in their residences as the application is pending. You can also apply for food stamps. Benefits from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program are increasing by an average of $36 a month per person starting in October. Colin Frederickson, NTD News.
The Taliban are claiming they have defeated the northern resistance fighters and have taken over the Panjshir Valley in northern Afghanistan. The anti-Taliban fighters admit to losses but say they still hold strategic positions and will continue to fight. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
The leader of the National Resistance Front, or NRF, Ahmed Massoud, posted an audio message on Facebook shortly after the Taliban attacked them. He offered his condolences to the families of the people who died in the Taliban's recent attacks. Massoud also said that a group of Islamic religious scholars had come together and denounced the fighting between the Taliban and the NRF, saying both sides should stop fighting. Massoud said he accepted their proposal and decided not to fight. But shortly before the so-called ceasefire was to begin, the Taliban showed they had other plans.
So after the announcement of the scholars, the Taliban didn't listen to their decision, and they just started attacking all of our people. So the result was we lost too many of our people, including my family members.
Massoud said there were foreigners fighting alongside the Taliban, but he didn't specify which country the foreign fighters were from. According to reports, Pakistan is assisting the Taliban in its fight against the northern resistance fighters. This comes after the Pakistani spy chief flew to Kabul on Saturday. But Massoud said the message the Taliban are giving to everyone, that they have changed over the last 20 years, is a lie. He says they are more aggressive, more extreme, and more racist than they were in the past. After the attacks on 9/11, it was the Northern Resistance fighters who fought alongside U.S. forces in 2001 to defeat the Taliban. Now that U.S. forces have completely withdrawn from Afghanistan, leaving behind billions of dollars in weapons and equipment seized by the Taliban, the NRF is calling for help from Western nations. Massoud said this is a moment in history for the future of the Afghan people, as he sought support from other countries. But at the same time, he said that no countries are helping.
Even if we lose more people, still we're not going to back down and we'll never stop fighting our resistance. So I'm with the people and with the people of Afghanistan until the end.
Even though the NRF says it will continue fighting, the Taliban claim that they have taken over the Panjshir Valley and would establish a new government in Afghanistan soon. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Congressman Darrell Issa says about 500 Americans are still stranded in Afghanistan. And when counting the family members of American citizens, he said the number could be as high as 1,000. A top Biden deputy told CNN that the White House is going to continue moving Americans and special immigrant visa holders out of the country. And people in France are taking to the streets for the 8th consecutive weekend to protest vaccine passports. But this time, there are reports of police brutality.
Videos of French police beating anti-health pass protesters in a Paris shopping mall have gone viral. It happened Saturday when a group of protesters reportedly marched into the mall without the health pass. The police are accusing the women of destroying public property. And in the video, we can hear bystanders booing the police. The police later carried the women away and arrested several others. Around 140,000 people protested the health pass system in several French cities on Saturday. In Paris, protesters marched past the Eiffel Tower and chanted freedom, Macron resign, or Macron in prison.
We should not abuse it and lock people up because there is a virus. Because there are diseases much more serious and people die. They get infected in different ways. We must not react with fear and paralysis. This is not normal.
The French government rolled out the system last month. All adults have to show proof of COVID-19 vaccination or a negative virus test within 3 days to enter most public spaces, like restaurants, gyms, and entertainment venues, and to travel long distance.
I live in the countryside, and when you see a small cafe where we meet people, where there is a maximum of 10 people in 90 or 100 square meters, and we ask for a health pass, I find that useless. And for me, it's the death of small businesses.
One of the protest banners reads, "Leave the children alone." French children aged 12 and up will be able to get vaccinated starting September 30th. And many fear the government may extend the health pass system to children. French politician Florian Philippot, the head of the Patriots Party, led the protests. He vowed to go on a general strike for an indefinite period over the health pass.
Strange things happening in China. Less than 2 weeks into his job, the German ambassador to China has died. And a black swan showed up uninvited at Tiananmen Square in Beijing. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more.
The German ambassador to China died less than 2 weeks after arriving in China, and the German chancellor issued a statement expressing her condolences. Jan Hecker was a foreign policy advisor to Chancellor Angela Merkel before his appointment as ambassador to China. The German foreign minister told media the death is unrelated to Hecker's role as ambassador. Hecker officially started working at the end of August. According to German media, Hecker was one of Merkel's closest confidants. Hardly anyone in Berlin has had such a great influence on the chancellor's foreign policy in recent years. He accompanied the chancellor on almost all trips abroad. In recent years, perceptions of China have plummeted among the German public, but the government's China policy seemed not to keep pace. It still follows a policy of constant dialogue. Many observers assume that Merkel sent Hecker to Beijing in an effort to maintain her policy of constant dialogue even after her departure later this year. A black swan visited Tiananmen Square in the city center over the weekend. It caught the attention of nearby tourists. Animal conservationists removed the bird after a couple of hours. Some said the Swan might have flown in from a nearby park. The incident triggered heated discussions among netizens, as Chinese leader Xi Jinping mentioned a black swan earlier this year. He cautioned people to be prepared for unexpected events that usually come with significant negative consequences. These are known as black swan events. The place the black swan landed carries deep historic significance for the Chinese people. In 1989, students and citizens across China protested against corruption in the Chinese Communist Party, demanding democracy and freedom. Tiananmen Square was the center of the demonstrations, but the Chinese military crushed the movement, killing hundreds or more protesters and arresting thousands. The clampdown has since remained one of Beijing's most widely censored topics.
NTD's 9th International Classical Chinese Dance Competition saw over 100 contestants from all over the world, all taking the stage in New York. After 4 days of competition, 12 dancers took home the gold. Let's take a look at the highlights.
Before Sunday evening's award ceremony, gold medalists from previous years showcased some of the best techniques in classical Chinese dance. Strings of difficult jumps and tumbles from male dancers won rounds of applause, while the female dancers' graceful movements presented the elegance and gentleness of ancient Chinese women. This year, 12 contestants from the junior and adult divisions were honored with the top award. The competition aims to promote authentic Chinese culture, traditions that have nearly been lost, destroyed by the Chinese Communist Party over the past several decades.
After winning, I just have a bigger responsibility to revive this culture.
I'm really happy. I think it's an encouragement for me to continue the path of dancing. Now I know my direction better. I hope in the future I can bring to the audience more works that can inspire the goodness in them and that conveys beautiful messages.
This year's gold medalist also brought a special dance component to the stage, a long-lost dance technique known as the body leads the hands and the hips leads the legs. The method teaches dancers that the power behind their movements comes from the center of the body.
I feel like there's actually so much behind it, and the more you go into it, the more interesting it gets. And then it just adds like so much to your dance. It's like a different world from like regular dance.
On stage, the dancers portrayed some of the best-known figures in Chinese history, from talented scholars to loyal generals to great beauties in ancient China, presenting a concise version of the country's 5,000 years of civilization. The competition aims to foster cultural exchange and promote purely authentic traditional dance, bringing its purity and goodness to light. Many contestants came to the competition with the same aspiration.
I hope to bring the most traditional Chinese classical dance to the world, so that people around the world will know that classical dance is really good.
What comes with winning gold is the responsibility to do better and to bring the highest art form I can to bring back this lost heritage to more people around the world.
The contestants say they will continue pursuing new heights in their training to reach new levels in their artistic journeys. NTD News, New York.
California's recall election is next week. Some have labeled it a Republican-driven effort, including the governor himself. But former Democrat Senator Gloria Romero recently said she supports the recall. NTD's David Lamb reports.
Former Democrat Senate Majority Leader Gloria Romero told Fox News she both supports the recall and endorses Larry Elder, who is reportedly the leading candidate seeking to succeed Newsom.
I was just tired of the false narrative that was put forward that this is a right-wing conspiracy.
Romero said on the Tucker Carlson Tonight Show on Thursday that she believes Elder is the best option for school choice.
And the second major reason, really, that I decided to endorse, especially Larry Elder, was that I was tired of the rules for thee, but not for me attitude of the prince of the French laundry.
Romero is an advocate for school choice. She served on the California State Senate from 2001 to 2010 and was previously in the State Assembly. In a Twitter post on Saturday, Newsom referred to the recall as a Republican recall. He encouraged voters and their friends to vote no on the recall. Twitter users gave split responses on the decision whether to recall California's governor or not. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Coming up, Amazon plans to roll out its own branded TVs, but one manufacturer could be a national security concern. And Marvel's Asian superhero film Shang-Chi tops the U.S. box office over the weekend. How much did it make? Find out more in just a moment on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Navigating a world of economic madness, you need to have the right guide. What do today's decisions mean for your tomorrow? We ask why. What's the alternative? Uncover the deeper reasons and the hidden influences, and highlight the real opportunities for profit. At NTD Business, we connect the dots for you. Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
One small town in Texas is trying to get South Korea's Samsung to build a big plant there, and it's offering some pretty enticing incentives. The city is called Taylor, Texas. A proposed resolution from the city shows they plan to waive most of the property tax for the land Samsung would use. It could be up to 92.5%. City officials still need to vote on the proposal. Taylor is competing with Austin, Texas to land the plant. Samsung plans to invest as much as $17 billion for the chip factory, and it's expected to create about 1,800 new jobs. For comparison, the city Taylor has a population of only around 16,000. And Amazon's next product and its Alexa-powered home device series is a TV. The goal is reportedly to make Alexa as omnipresent as possible. But one of the manufacturers Amazon is working with has been accused of spying on Americans in the past. Here's NTD's Evelyn Lee with more.
Amazon is planning to roll out its own TV in the U.S., and that could happen as soon as October. That will put the company in direct competition with other TV brands like Samsung, LG, and Sony. The TV will be equipped with Alexa and will come in sizes from 55 to 75 inches. Currently, it's designed and manufactured by third parties. One of the manufacturers is reportedly the fast-growing Chinese company called TCL. It came under fire late last year for allegedly using its TVs to spy on Americans. In a speech at the Heritage Foundation back then, the former acting U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf said that TCL received support from the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP.
This year, it was discovered that TCL incorporated backdoors into all its TV sets, exposing users to cyber breaches and data exfiltration. TCL also received CCP state support to compete in the global electronics market which has propelled it to the third largest television manufacturer in the world.
According to a person familiar with the matter, Amazon is also working on a separate TV that's designed in-house. It's still unclear how successful this approach is to increase user engagement with Alexa. The digital assistant is reportedly still mostly used for simple functionalities. That includes playing music or asking for the time. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
Labor Day weekend is usually a slow one for the box office, but not this year. We have the early 3-day estimates for the top 5 films.
Jungle Cruise landed in 5th place with $3.95 million, giving it $107 million domestic. Paw Patrol the movie made $4 million, falling to 4th place. Free Guy picked up $8.7 million for 3rd place. It's approaching $95 million domestic.
And one day, I saw myself.
Candyman lost the top spot, but $10.6 million was easily good enough for 2nd place.
You have the wrong guy. Does he look like he can fight? Come on, bro.
What pandemic? Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings exceeded expectations, clobbering the competition with $71.4 million in its first 3 days, setting a new Labor Day weekend record.
The only film with a bigger debut than Shang-Chi since the pandemic began was another Marvel movie, Black Widow, which opened with $80 million back in July. And coming up, Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese regime, says that China will open a 3rd stock exchange. It comes as U.S. regulators are making it harder for Chinese companies to raise money in the U.S. And Britain's new aircraft carrier, the HMS Queen Elizabeth, arrives in Japan, marking the start of a permanent British military presence in the Indo-Pacific. Find out more in just a moment here on NTD News. Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping has announced a plan for a new stock exchange. This one will be in Beijing. It comes at a time when Chinese companies are facing more and more hurdles to raise money in the U.S. NTD's Evelyn Lee has more.
Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, said Thursday that Beijing will set up a stock exchange. It will serve small and medium-sized enterprises. The China Securities Regulatory Commission, or CSRC, says it will complement the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock exchanges. According to Xi, it's to support the innovation-driven development of SMEs. This comes at a time when Chinese companies have to deal with increasing regulatory hurdles in the U.S. trying to raise money. On top of that, Chinese authorities are upset about tech firms going public overseas because it could give data to foreign governments. Companies looking to list outside of China now need to be reviewed by the regime first. The CSRC says that the new exchange is also an important measure to deepen structural reform of the financial supply side. So far, the Chinese regime's regulatory crackdown on large private companies has wiped $3 trillion from the market. China piloted a registration-based IPO system a while back, and it will be applied to the new exchange as well. The system requires companies to disclose even more about their operations. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
Britain's new aircraft carrier, HMS Queen Elizabeth, arrives in Japan. The UK will have a permanent military presence in the Indo-Pacific region as China's Navy increasingly presses its territorial claims. NTD's Eddie Aitken brings us this report.
Britain shows off its HMS Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier to Japan's defence minister on Monday. Nobuo Kishi meets the strike group's commander, Commodore Steve Moorhouse, on board the carrier. Before arriving, the Queen Elizabeth held an exercise with warships from the US, Netherlands, Canada and Japan.
And the visit to Japan is hugely important and symbolic for us. I think the first time since the late 1990s that a UK aircraft carrier has been alongside in Japan. And I think it's the best evidence that you can see of our commitment to the Indo-Pacific region.
The arrival of the £3 billion carrier starts a permanent British military presence in the Indo-Pacific. 2 warships will stay in the region as London looks for a bigger world presence following Brexit. While docked near Tokyo, the Queen Elizabeth will help Britain drum up business deals, hosting executives from leading Japanese companies.
It's a prominent importance of this region is rising significantly in terms of growing economies, etc. Certainly post-Brexit, the United Kingdom's looking to establish deals and relationships now with a number of nations. And so the strike group is not just about hard power.
Royal Navy officers explained to the Defence Minister and senior Japanese military commanders how stealth fighters launch from the ramp at the bow. Japan is seeking to expand its military cooperation beyond its traditional alliance with the US as China's Navy expands and presses its territorial claims. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Several German automakers unveiled a series of new electric vehicles today in Munich. They're competing for more of the EV market. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Renault CEO Luca De Meo showcased the fully electric E-Tech Megane Monday, praising its low driving position, reduced steering ratio, and low weight.
This is a true GTI among electric vehicles. With the new Megane, I believe we have the right product to tackle the core market for electric vehicles in Europe.
Elektrofahrzeuge in Europa anzugehen. Volkswagen unveiled the ID Life. The fully electric small car is set for release in 2025 at a cost of around $23,000. It's an effort to make battery-powered cars more affordable for consumers. The ID Life is a key pillar of Volkswagen's goal to become the world's top seller of electric vehicles by 2025. Volkswagen aims to have at least 70% of its vehicle sales be all-electric models in Europe by 2030, and at least 50% in North America and China. BMW CEO Oliver Zipse unveiled the i4 fully electric limousine and the iVision Circular, a concept car made from recycled materials. Porsche also showcased its new all-electric Mission R. The new vehicle features an exoskeleton made from carbon fibers and new charging technology.
A game changer for electric mobility has been our 800-volt technology, which enables ultra-fast charging. It helped us to win Le Mans 3 times in a row.
The German automaker expects electric cars to open up a new world of racing and hopes the Mission R can compete in traditional motorsports. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up, a hat that belonged to the legendary French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte will go on auction next month. We get a preview of the newly discovered artifact. And we take you to one of the most scenic bike paths in the world. Located in Belgium, this trail gives cyclists the feeling of riding underwater. That and more here on NTD News.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
London researchers conducted their annual survey of the seals living in the Thames estuary. The data helps them keep track of the seals and monitor the health of the river. Here's NTD's Anna Rodriguez with the details.
Researchers from the Zoological Society of London conducted their annual survey of seals living in the Thames estuary. The aerial, boat and land survey covered the sandbanks between Felixstowe and Deal.
So we're here to look at these
very charismatic animals, the seals that we have on the Greater Thames estuary. We have two species, the harbour or the common seal, and then also the grey seal.
The survey was undertaken over several days in August, when the seals come ashore to grow a new winter coat.
These are a predator in the estuary. They give us an indication of the health of the estuary. So obviously they feed on fish, which feed on invertebrates, and they tell us how healthy our Thames is.
The Thames seals are part of a resurgent ecosystem after the river was declared dead in the 1950s.
They're also a protected species nationally, so understanding how to manage those protected populations. It's important to know what's happening on the local level, how many we have, where they are.
The Zoological Society says the data will be fed into a national picture of seal distribution in Britain. This will help monitor the impact of threats such as disease and competition between species for food and habitat. Anna Rodriguez, NTD News.
Sailing boat charter companies in Croatia are struggling to keep up with demand this summer. More people are turning to the ocean for a safer and less crowded holiday. NTD's Trevor Piper has this story.
Visitors to Croatia are taking to the sea as interest in nautical holidays skyrockets.
Croatia have over 4,000 sailing charter boats. That means in high season there is not so much lonely bays, but still it's very safety and interesting way of have a vacation.
Yachting holidays are one of the main offerings from Croatia's tourism sector.
Season is extremely crowded. There is everybody are looking for a boat to have a boat, and we have no boats anymore.
Some see it as a safer option, while others simply want a more isolated trip.
It's huge difference generally between tourism like beach and sailing away. When you sail away, la vita è bella, and people feel safe, people feel good.
Croatia has hundreds of islands, offering a maze of bays, small beaches and picturesque villages along any route.
You're more independent on your own than when you just stay on the land. So you will see much more of the nature of Croatia, and you will get really good impressions of how beautiful the country really is.
According to statistics from the Tourism Board, Croatia has welcomed 9 million people in 2021 after a complete halt in 2020. Tourism usually accounts for 19% of Croatia's GDP. It is crucial for the country's economic sustainability as it battles a weak economy. Trevor Piper, NTD News.
Bulls are running through the streets of Spain for the first time since the pandemic. The festival attracts many spectators but remains a highly controversial topic among Spaniards. NTD's Eddie Aitken has more on this.
Bulls charged through the streets of Villaseca de la Sagra on Sunday, chasing hundreds of runners. This is the first bull running fiesta in Spain since the start of the pandemic.
It has been really hard because in normal times you could get together with your friends, and now plans have changed and you need to do that elsewhere. So we are very happy to be able to catch up on the streets.
Health restrictions saw limits in place. 900 runners are allowed to race against the bulls each day. The crowd is limited to 1,300 people per run.
We haven't run in 2 years, so our legs and our mind don't respond in the same way. But it's good, very excited to be back. Hopefully other villages will do the same, and we can continue celebrating through the Sagra area, Madrid region and Spain.
After the run, the bulls involved are destined for the bull ring. The festival runs until September the 12th. Opposition to bullfighting and bull running has increased in recent years, but Spanish society remains divided over the controversial issue. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
A newly discovered hat with DNA evidence proving it belonged to the legendary European statesman Napoleon Bonaparte was previewed by auction house Bonhams in Hong Kong on Monday.
The hat is currently on display in Hong Kong before it shifts to Paris and then London, where it will be auctioned on October 27th. It's one of the iconic bicorns that made Napoleon immediately recognizable to soldiers on the battlefield.
And when it was discovered, it was purely a chance encounter. It was acquired by its present owner from a small auction in Germany. And from there, the story starts. He recognized or noticed that the hat, which was being sold as a piece of 20th century costume material, and had the name of a costumier, Leopold Wersch, from Berlin, printed on the interior. He noticed that it said Original Napoleon I.
The hat was thereafter tested extensively using various methods, including electronic microscopy.
And 5 hairs were discovered when the contents of the hat were examined very, very closely, and 2 of those hairs were then followed up more closely, again using these methods, and they carry the marker of Napoleon.
The story behind this hat is very different to other Napoleonic bicorns that have previously been offered on the market, according to Caudle. Most of them were handed down by noble families connected to the emperor or soldiers who picked them up on the battleground. The estimated price for the hat, between $140,000 to $200,000, was cautious, said Caudle, as the hat was only recently proven to have belonged to the emperor. Other Napoleonic hats with more history in the auction circuit have fetched as much as $2.5 million.
A bike path in Belgium cuts through a lake, giving users the impression they're cycling underwater. Let's take a look.
Drone footage shows cyclists skimming the surface of the lake on a dawn ride on Friday.
Donc descendre sous le niveau de l'eau.
Going down below water level is a rather incredible feeling. And then you find yourself at the level of the water. You find yourself at the level of the ducks, swans, and that's special. I think a lot of people love to do this experience, to be almost at water level, at bird level. You really have a feeling of close contact with nature.
Au niveau de l'eau, au niveau des oiseaux, on a vraiment une sensation de contact étroit avec la nature.
The 656-foot-long bike path is located in a park and museum complex in the province of Limburg near the Dutch border. It's called Cycling Through Water and is considered one of the most scenic bike paths in the world. Since it opened in 2016, around 1 million people have used it. Limburg has over 1,200 miles of paved paths as part of its cycling network. These paths are largely car-free. Another stunning bike trail in the province is called Cycling Through the Trees, featuring an elevated circular path through a forest.
And new footage of 2 African lion cubs born at a zoo in France on August 22nd. Their birth came as a surprise to both visitors and staff.
Parents of the cubs are Helios, the 17-year-old male, and Isis, the 12-year-old female. The pair already gave birth in 2013, but the zoo did not expect a new litter, given the advanced age of Helios. The babies, a male and a female, and their mother, were moved to a building out of sight and away from Helios until the end of their weaning. The number of African lions has declined from 100,000 in 1970 to 35,000 in 2021 in Africa, threatened by hunting and the reduction of their natural habitat. The public will be able to choose the names of the newborns on social media.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.